Hello everyone and welcome back once again. This is your science teacher here, and this time I'm here with a new chapter of grade 6 science NCERT textbook, that is components of food. Students, as you can see here, this is a session plan of your chapter number 2, and in your chapter number 2 we are going to discuss all these topics here. First of all, we will learn and discuss its introduction. Students, if you remembered in your previous chapter, we learnt about that what is food and what are the different sources from where we basically get our food, and we also made list of the food items that we eat, and we also identified food items in different parts of India. But students, in this chapter we will learn and focus mainly on the components of food that make a food complete food. Secondly, we will learn and discuss the different components of food that makes a complete food. Then we will learn and discuss the role of different food components in our diet. Then we will learn what is balanced diets and its importance. Then we will learn that what is obesity and what are its effects. Then we will learn about the deficiency diseases of vitamins. Then we will discuss malnutrition, and lastly we will discuss about the disease due to malnutrition of protein. So let's start. Students, have you ever imagined or questioned yourself that what do various nutrients do for our body, or why we need different kind of nutrients in our food? Students, food is the source of all of the energy needed. Now the question is, why do humans have to eat? Is it just because we get hungry? No, that's not all. People get energy from food. We need energy all the time when we run, jump, sing, and even when we sleep. We create all the energy we need by eating. The structural components that make up the human body, such as muscles, organs, and bones, are all composed of the nutrients contained in food, meaning that it is contained in food. That is why eating and taking in the nutrients that provide energy and become the components of our bodily structure is essential for sustaining human life. Students, nutrients are the substances found in food which drive biological activity and are essential for the human body. And because of these nutrients in our food, we obtain energy for different life processes, and secondly we obtain different materials for our bodily growth, and we obtain different materials for repair of damaged body parts, and these nutrients also helps to carry out the different life processes. That's why we need these nutrients in our diet, and these nutrients help in overall development of our body. Now moving on towards the next slide. Students, these are the major nutrients of a food that make a food a complete food. These are fats, proteins, minerals, water, roughage, vitamin, carbohydrates. Now we will learn and discuss each major nutrients elaborately. So let's start. Students, as you all know, food is a basic requirement for all living organisms' survival on earth. Every human body needs food because it is a basic important need for normal growth, development, and energy. Nutritious food plays a vital role in the promotion of health and disease prevention. Students, our body is just like a machine, like an engine burning up fuel. In order to generate the required energy, the human body uses the consumed food in order to generate the driving forces to keep the heart beating, the lungs breathing, and the limbs functioning. So it is necessary for us that we get a food that we call a complete food. And students, there are different components that make a food a complete food, and these all components come together to provide wholesome nourishment to us. For example, dal, eggs, meat, etc. contain proteins. So it is necessary that our diet also contain these items in our diet. Fruits and vegetables contains vitamins. Cereals, pulses, oats contain predominantly carbohydrates. Oil, ghee, butter, cheese, pork, chocolates, lard and cream contains fats. So it is necessary that the food we take consists of different kind of food items. Now moving on towards the next slide. Students, as you can see here, the first major nutrient that we are going to discuss is carbohydrate. Students, carbohydrates are the compound which is made up of three major elements that are carbon, hydrogen and oxygen. Students, carbohydrates provide energy to our body and thus they are also known as energy giving food. The sources of carbohydrates include cereals such as wheat, maize, rice, jowar, bajra, potatoes, bread, etc. These food items are the major source of carbohydrates. Now let's move on towards the next slide. Students, we can test the presence of carbohydrates in the food items by iodine test. Students, carbohydrates present in all food items are tested by iodine test. Means we can test the presence of carbohydrates in any food items by this test, that is iodine test. Now listen here very carefully. How can you test the presence of carbohydrate in a given food item? First of all, you have to take the food item in the test tube and then add 2 to 3 drops of dilute iodine solution to it. If after some time the color changes to blue-black, it indicates the presence of starch in the food item. As you see here, it changes to blue-black, then it means the food item that you take contains carbohydrate. If the color doesn't change, it means that the food items that you take doesn't contains any kind of carbohydrates in it. Moving on towards the next slide. Students, as you see here, the next major nutrients that we are going to discuss is proteins. Students, proteins are the complex compounds that are made up of carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen and sulfur. Proteins are the body building nutrients and proteins are very essential in our diet as they help in the growth and repair of our body. Hence, protein also known as body building food. And the major food items that are good sources of proteins are eggs, meat, lentils, etc. Students, now we can test the presence of proteins also in our diet. So let's move on toward the next slide where we will discuss that how can we test the presence of proteins in our diet. Students, to test the presence of proteins in our diet, we need two major salts that are copper sulfate and caustic soda. First of all, you have to take the given food item and made it into a very dilute paste. Then you have to take the food item in the test tube and add 10 drops of water to it and mix it well. Then you have to add 2 drops of copper sulfate and 10 drops of caustic soda, that is also known as sodium hydroxide solution. Now thirdly, you have to mix it well and keep it undisturbed for some time. If after some time the development of violet color in the test tube appears, then it indicates the presence of proteins in it. And that's how you can test the presence of proteins in any food item. Now, moving on towards the next slide. Now, the third major nutrients that is essential for our diet is fats. Students, fats also provide energy to our body, and fat gives more energy as compared to carbohydrate. Hence, fats and carbohydrate both are called as energy giving nutrients. The major food items that are good source of fats, for example, oil, ghee, butter, etc., are the major good sources of fat. Now, likewise, protein and carbohydrate, we can also test the presence of fat in our food items. Now, let's discuss how can we test the presence of the starch in our food item. Students, to test the presence of fat in a given food item, first of all, you have to take the food item that you want to test. Then you have to wrap it in a paper. Then you have to try to crush it, taking care that paper is not torn. After that, take out the food item and allow the paper to be dried for some time. As you see here in these two figures, if you can find the oil spots on the paper, it indicates the presence of fats in the food item. As you can see here, we have two filter paper here, and we test the fats in both the filter paper. Here, number one filter paper is as it is after drying it, while in the other, the filter paper turns into translucent. This means the second paper shows the presence of fat in a given food item. Now, it is the another major nutrient groups. Vitamins. Vitamins are needed by our body to function and fight off diseases. And students, our body cannot produce vitamin by itself. So, we must get them through food that we eat, or in some cases we get some supplements also if there is a deficiency of vitamins in our body. Students, there are overall 30 vitamins that are essential for our body to working well. Students, as I said, vitamins help in protecting our body against diseases. It helps in keeping our eyes, bones, teeth and gums healthy. And student, there are 13 vitamins that are essential for the proper functioning of our body. So the knowledge of the different types and understanding the purpose of these different kind of vitamins are important for our good health. Students, vitamins do not directly serve as a source of energy. In fact, they help the enzymes to generate energy from nutrients such as carbohydrate and fats. As you can see here, there are different kind of vitamins that are essential for the proper functioning of our body. Now, moving on towards the next slide. The next group is fibers. Students, fibers are also known as roughage, and these fibers are materials that add bulk to our food. Students, these fibers or roughage is mainly needed to keep the digestive system healthy. Student, these fibers are made up of the indigestible parts or compounds of plants, which passes relatively unchanged through our stomach and intestine. Fiber is mainly a carbohydrate. The main role of fiber is to keep the digestive system healthy. Cereals, fruits and vegetables are the rich sources of dietary fibers. Students, fiber also helps you feel fuller for longer, can improve cholesterol and blood sugar levels, and can assist in preventing some diseases such as diabetes, heart diseases and bowel cancer. So, fibers are also necessary in our diet. Now, moving on towards the next slide. Students, now in this section, you will learn or understand that what kind of diet we call a balanced diet, or what is balanced diet. Student, a healthy diet or balanced diet is a diet that contains the right amounts of all the food groups. All the food groups means carbohydrates, proteins, fats, vitamins, minerals, and enough water and roughage also. Your balanced diet includes fruit, vegetables, grains, daily products, and proteins. It doesn't include too much or too little of any kind of food. Eating wrong amounts of a food group, whether it be too much or too little, is called an unhealthy diet or an imbalanced diet. A healthy diet is one that includes more foods that come from the plants and fewer convenience food. Students, a diet is said to be balanced when our body gets the nutrients it needs to function correctly. Usually, people consume fresh fruits, vegetables, whole grains, nuts, lean proteins in their diet. A well-balanced diet provides vitamins, minerals, and nutrients to keep the body and mind healthy. There are a total of 7 essential factors for a balanced diet, such as carbohydrates, proteins, fats, fibers, vitamins, minerals, and water. Eating a wide range of foods will give the body the nutrients and micronutrients that it needs. Students, if we don't get enough nutrition, our body will be more prone to disease, infection, fatigue, and less immunity. Not getting enough nutrition and overeating junk can cause even obesity and diabetes. So, students, it is necessary that our diet consists of all the major nutrients in proper amounts. Now, moving on towards the next slide. Student, as you can see here is a new term for you, that is obesity. Student, obesity is a medical condition in which excess body fat has accumulated to an extent that it may have a negative effect on health. Student, the main cause of obesity is generally by eating too much and moving too little. If we consume high amount of energy, particularly fat and sugars, but do not burn off the energy through exercise and physical activity, then much of the surplus energy will be stored by the body as fat. This obesity doesn't happen overnight. It develops gradually over time as a result of poor diet and lifestyle choices, such as eating large amount of processed or fast food that's high in fat and sugar, drinking too much alcoholic drinks, because alcoholic drinks contains a lot of calories and people who drink heavily are often overweight. Next, eating large portions than you need, drinking too many sugary drinks, and lastly, comfort eating. Students, this obesity causes many health related issues in our body. As the first one, it can causes the danger of diabetes in our body. It causes cancers. It causes the hypertension condition in our body. Due to obesity, it increases the high cholesterol level in our body. It also increases the sleep apnea. Student, sleep apnea is a serious sleep disorder in which breathing repeatedly stops and starts. It can cause respiratory problems. It decreases the quality of our life. It can also causes arthritis. Arthritis means to say related to your bone disorders. It also increases the high blood pressure. It also causes coronary heart diseases, means to say heart related problems. So it is necessary for all of us to take food in a proper amount and do more physical exercises to burn the excess calories in our body. Now moving on towards the next slide. Students, now in this section you will learn that what are deficiency diseases and what are the causes of deficiency diseases. Students, sometimes getting adequate amount of food might not be enough if the food doesn't contain the required nutrient in the right amount, and prolonged eating or usage of such nutrient-less food may result in a condition known as deficiency. Students, deficiency diseases that occur due to lack of nutrient over a long period of time are called deficiency diseases or nutritional diseases. Deficiency of one or more nutrient can cause diseases or disorder in our body. For example, wheat is rich in carbohydrates but poor in nutrients like proteins and fats. Too much intake of wheat product result in deficiency of protein and fats, which reduces growth. Now, lack of protein also results in stunted growth, skin diseases, swelling of the face, and discoloration of the hair, and even causes diarrhea. Whereas a diet deficient in both carbohydrate and protein causes completely stunted growth. Stunted means to say short height, no proper growth of body, and the person becomes so frail and lean that he or she might not even able to move. In the same way, deficiency of certain vitamins and minerals can also cause diseases like scurvy, goiter, anemia, etc. So, students, it is necessary that we must always make sure to include all kind of nutrients in our food, and we should also drink a good amount of water to maintain a healthy body that is free from diseases. Now there is a question that how you can overcome the deficiency in nutrients. So for this, if you want to overcome the deficiency in nutrients, then you have to eat simple, inexpensive foods. Means eat inexpensive food but wholesome food like groundnut, pulses, and soybean, etc. Next, you have to eat the food that is properly cooked. Students, many food items lose their food value by wrong method of cooking or processing. Prolonged heating of food items, keeping cut fruits or vegetables for a longer period spoil their nutritive value. So it is necessary that we should eat a proper cooked food. Next, sprouting and fermentation. Student, sprouting and fermentation help in enhancing nutritive value of food. So we must always try to take sprouting and fermentative food. Next, we should prevent wastage of food. Student, we should cook the right amount of food and store the food items in its respective places. For example, store fruits and vegetables in refrigerator for their longer survival. Store cereals, pulses and spices in airtight container, so may the germs not spoil them. Now moving on towards the next slide. Now student, as you can see here is a table in which there are 3 columns. In the first, there are certain vitamins and minerals that are essential for our body proper growth. Secondly, in the second column, deficiency diseases and disorder that are basically caused by the lack of these vitamin and minerals in our diet. And thirdly, in the third, there are symptoms of these deficiency diseases. As you can see here, firstly, the first one is vitamin A, and the deficiency disease that are caused by the vitamin A is loss of vision, means to say we can't able to see properly, and some symptoms are poor vision. Loss of vision in darkness means we can't able to see properly in the darkness. Sometimes there is a complete loss of vision also due to the deficiency of vitamin A. The next one is vitamin B1, and due to the deficiency of vitamin B1 in our diet causes beriberi. Students, it is a disease in which the muscles become very weak and we get very little energy to work. The third vitamin is vitamin C, and deficiency of vitamin C causes scurvy, and its symptoms due to the deficiency of vitamin C in our diet causes bleeding gums, and when we get wounds in any part of our body, it get a longer time to heal if we eat a diet that is deficient of vitamin C. Next is vitamin D. Student, deficiency of vitamin D in our diet causes rickets. In this case, our bones become soft and easily bent, and there is a lot of problems related to arthritis, means to say bone disorder in our body due to the deficiency of vitamin D in our diet. The next one is calcium, that is a mineral. Due to the deficiency of calcium in our diet causes bone and tooth decay, means to say our bones and teeth becomes too weak and our tooth decay very easily. The next mineral is iron. Student, deficiency of iron in our diet causes goiter. In this case, the glands in the neck appear swollen, and there is a mental disability in children who suffer from goiter. The last one is iron. Student, deficiency of iron in our diet causes anemia, and it causes weakness. Now let's move on towards the next slide. Students, this is the another important topic of your chapter number 2, that is malnutrition. Student, the consumption of less quantity of food than the amount required by the body is known as undernutrition, whereas on the other hand, lack of some essential nutrient in the diet is known as malnutrition. Malnutrition, students, malnutrition refers to when a person's diet doesn't provide enough nutrients or the right balance of nutrients for optimal health. If a person doesn't get the right balance of nutrient, they can also have a malnutrition. Student, when a person has too little food, a limited diet, or a condition that it stops their body from obtaining the right balance of nutrient, it can have a severe impact on their health. In some cases, this can become life-threatening also. Student, malnutrition causes weight loss, causes dry skin, brittle thin hair, loss of muscles mass, brittle nails, weakness, bones in joint pain, fatigue, means to say you easily get tired. Now, students, in the another section, we will learn malnutrition basically in case of proteins. So let's move on towards the next slide. Students, when there is a lack of protein in our bodies, repair of wounds and an injury becomes difficult. As I said earlier also, that protein is a bodybuilding food and it helps our body to repair wounds and injury. Students, when there is a deficiency of protein in our diets, then this condition is known as protein energy undernutrition or malnutrition. There are two ways in which protein energy malnutrition manifests itself. This protein energy malnutrition basically manifests itself into two kinds, that is kwashiorkor and marasmus. Now in the next slide we will understand each separately. So let's move on to the next slide. Student, as you can see here, firstly we will learn and understand about the first protein energy malnutrition manifest, that is kwashiorkor. Student, Kwashiorkor is a form of severe protein malnutrition characterized by edema. Edema means swelling and an enlarged liver with fatty infiltrates. As you can see here, this child over here has a large swelling belly. Students, kwashiorkor is caused by sufficient calorie intake but with insufficient protein consumption. This kwashiorkor cases also occur in areas of famine or poor food supply. Students, the major symptom of kwashiorkor are edema. As I said earlier also, edema is a puffy appearance due to retention of fluid. Now let's move on toward the next slide. The next protein energy malnutrition disease is marasmus. Students, marasmus is a form of malnutrition. It happens when the intake of nutrients and energy is too low for a person's need. It leads to wasting or the loss of body fat and muscles. A child with marasmus may not grow as children usually do. As I said earlier also, marasmus is a severe form of protein energy malnutrition that results when a person doesn't consume enough protein and calories. It tends to manifest chronic diarrhea, weight loss of body, dehydration, and stomach shrinkage are the major symptoms of marasmus. As you can see here in this figure also, these are the symptoms of marasmus. Hair loss, old person's face, means to say child appears to be older than its usual age, wrinkled skin, and severe muscles wasting. That are the symptoms of marasmus. Now, students, your chapter is finished here, and this is your chapter is all about. Now, I will be come back soon with a new chapter. Till then, stay home, stay safe.